Hi, friends. I'm Christiana Gaudet. I am live on my Facebook page. It's Thursday. That means it's time for the Tarot Topics Weekly Newsletter recap. So, our topic this week is about finding meaning and how we are always on the search for meaning. We'll talk about that and we'll do some readings about that in just a few moments. Before we get started, I want to remind you of a couple of things. Coming up this Sunday at 4 p.m., we have a tarot meetup on YouTube. That would be on my YouTube channel, Christiana Gaudet. If you're not a subscriber there, please do subscribe. And please do join us 4 p.m. Eastern Time on Sunday. I also want to remind you that the latest edition of StarCast, our podcast in celebration of StarCon, is out. It is my conversation with Marion Kirk, and we are really happy to have this. We had a fun time talking. It's a great thing. So you can find that on the StarCast YouTube channel. That is STAARCAST, or wherever you get your podcasts. So people are coming into the room. Please do comment and say hello. And we will talk about our topic in just one moment. I have one more thing to remind you of, and that is I have a premium class on Zoom this evening, today. 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Tarot reading for personalities and relationships. We're going to spend 2 hours really getting into the nitty-gritty of how we use tarot to understand people, what their needs are, how to get along with them, and compatibility and communication in love relationships and in other kinds of relationships. We use tarot to navigate all kinds of relationships, not just romance. So we're going to be talking about that. You need a ticket to join us. It's not too late. All you have to do is go to my website, tarotbychristiana.com, and go to the events, get your ticket there. You can also get your tickets on Facebook. Just look for the events here on Facebook. Now, did you have a chance to read this week's newsletter? It's all about the great search for meaning, that in a big way, we are always looking for meaning, the meaning of life. When we have a hard time communicating with people, we're trying to figure out, what did they mean when they said that? What did they mean when they did this? Right? There's that expression, if people are angry about something, what is the meaning of this? And I think we spend a lot of time looking for meaning in big and little ways. And divination is one of the things that we do to find meaning in big and small things. And with tarot, I think it's especially interesting because each card holds so much meaning. Just in the study of tarot, we find meaning in life, right? Just by studying it, just by the lessons we learned from the cards. And then we can ask questions of the cards to discern meaning in larger ways and smaller ways. So those are the readings I'm interested in doing today. If anyone has a particular situation they are trying to find meaning in, if there's a particular tarot card you are wondering what it means, we can talk about that. And if you are simply looking for some inspiration, some sense of meaning in your life, or what you can do to find more meaning in your life, those are all good questions. Go ahead and ask them in the comments, and we will do some readings. And let me know how you're doing today and what's up in your world. I'm so happy that you are here. So when I study tarot and look at the meaning in the cards, there is this real sense of there is this real sense of how each card helps me understand the meaning of life, right? Like you can pick any card and you can say, okay, the devil, how does the devil help me understand the meaning of life? Well, on one hand, we really are tied to the physical body. We are human beings having, no, other way around. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. And so we have to honor the body, and the devil is very much about how we are tied to the body, right? Hey, Allie Marie, so nice to see you here. Robin Renee, glad you're here. Oh, you have a question literally about the meaning in two different cards, justice and judgment. That's fabulous. Let's talk about that. And again, I am here to answer any questions, either about the meaning of specific tarot cards, but also any questions you have for the cards about the meaning of a particular thing that's happening, about finding meaning in your life in general. Any question you have around that nature, go ahead and ask it, and I will do my best to answer it. In the meanwhile, let's talk about the difference between justice and judgment. And let's talk first of all about what they have in common, other than they both begin with the letter J and have two syllables. And they're both in the major arcana. And interestingly, they're both two, right? Justice in the weight system is 11, which 1 + 1 is 2, right? And judgment is card 20, 2 + 0 is 2, so they're both 2. So they have some things in common. But when we look at them operationally, oh, and Betty says, I always have trouble with the judgment card. So good, this is going to be helpful. Here's judgment. I'm pulling them out of my deck right this minute. So when I look, oh, and another thing they both have in common is the keyword karma. And karma is so hard. Hey, Joanne Matthew, haven't seen you in a long time. Karma is such a hard concept for Westerners, right? Because we always want to think it's about payback, getting what you deserve, what you put out comes back to you. And that's part of it, but that's not really the whole thing. And so if you really want to look at how these two cards are enmeshed with each other and what their deeper meanings are, do a deep dive into what karma really is. Now, Robin Renee says, well, I see balance there. And absolutely, any card that has the number 2 is going to speak to balance in some way. I'm having a hard time finding my justice card. So what does that mean? And Betty says, isn't the Wheel of Fortune also about karma? Yes. I was thinking about doing that next month as a YouTube class, the cards of karma. And let's really talk about that and what we think that means. I don't know that I'm really qualified in terms of understanding karma. But, we can talk about what we don't understand and try to understand it. So maybe we'll do that as a YouTube class, if that makes sense. Okay, so justice and judgment. So we've talked a little bit about what they might have in common. Now let's look at where they are unique. When we look at justice, in a very mundane way, justice can talk about the law, having to appear in court, dealing with attorneys, needing an attorney. It can also talk about fair treatment. Very often when this card comes up, especially if it comes up reversed, there's a sense of like, maybe I haven't been treated fairly, or maybe I'm feeling like I haven't been treated fairly. And so when I see this card in a reading, I often wonder if we're dealing with issues of law or legalities, or people, law enforcement people, lawyers, anyone having to do with the law or government or, that kind of structure, or any issues of fairness. And, when we talk about social justice, this card can come up in the fight for social justice. And how do we understand justice and how do we treat each other fairly? And what does that even mean? It can talk about all of those things as well. Now, when we look at judgment, the archetype of judgment is literally the rapture, the idea of the end times where all the corpses are being raised out of coffins and born into the new day. And so it is the judgment day. It is not so much about judgment in terms of discernment. There's a couple of comments here I'm going to address, some interesting conversation here that we definitely want to address here. So when I see judgment, I very often see it being about closure, putting closure to the past. And typically, recognizing that you did your best, don't have regrets. Judgment very often can be a card of getting over it, right? Now, because we see an angel with a horn, it can also be about mediumship, about spirit communication. It can also be about getting your word out there, whatever your word is, making sure people are hearing your word. So those are some of the differences there, if that's helpful. Now, a couple of comments here from Joanne. In an offbeat way, the hermit figures into karma. Go inside yourself and think, how would you feel if what you were doing to others was done to you? Sure. And Robin, if justice and the Hierophant appear together, oh, definitely then, definitely you might be dealing with like the police or attorneys or judges or any of that kind of thing. So I hope that was helpful. Now, I am open at this point to any other question about card meetings, but also any questions for readings if you are interested in finding the meaning in something that has happened. Robin, is judgment similar to death and or the Nine of Swords? I think all of them can, well, let me break this up a little. With death, judgment and death, I think, can very often go together because they are both endings and new beginnings. So I see a lot of similarity there. With the Nine of Swords, judgment, like the Nine of Swords, really needs closure. And judgment can come up to say, get that closure. So in that way, yeah, there could be some crossover there. Absolutely. So any questions you have about finding the meaning in a particular dream, about finding meaning in your own life, about trying to understand the meaning of someone's weird actions, any questions like that, I am happy to answer, as well as questions about the meanings of particular cards. And in the meantime, let me remind you that we do have a class on Zoom tonight, 7 p.m. I know a few of you already have your tickets. If you need a ticket, you can just look at the events here on Facebook to get that ticket. It is 7 p.m. Eastern time tonight, so we'll look forward to seeing you there. And Sunday, of course, we have a meetup on YouTube, 4 p.m. Eastern time. What do you think about that class on YouTube, doing a class on like the cards of karma and how, like what is that intersection where we talk about karma and tarot? So interesting, tarot being this very Western occult tradition thing and karma being this very Eastern thing. What do you think? Okay, here's a question from Missy. I'm feeling lost lately with my son always being home due to COVID and doing virtual learning. I don't know if the cards can help me or not. I'm just trying to figure out what the actual hell to do. I feel like my son and I are resenting one another because we are always with each other. Well, it's hard. I mean, this is not the normal life that we are trained for. That's a very hard thing. So here's the question. How can you find meaning in this enforced time of being together? How can you find meaning there in a way that would be helpful? 9 of Cups. What you have to do is remember the things that the two of you enjoy doing. There's so much now that you have to do together because you have to, that you may forget to do the things that you enjoy. And like normally, Normally, when you don't get to see your kids, you plan these fun things because you don't, you have limited time. So let's do this fun thing together. If you see each other all the time, you may not be planning fun things. So find the meaning in your relationship with him by doing fun things with him in addition to all the things you have to do. Okay, Robin Renee, I had a dream that my ex gave me a lion that I was fearful of, so I jumped out of the window. So how do we find meaning in that? And it's Mercury retrograde, so we're all dreaming about our exes. I had a parade of exes in my dreams this week. It was really kind of funny. So what could we say about the meaning of that dream, Robin? Knight of Swords, I think this is recognizing that you were absolutely right to not be in that relationship. Whether you chose to end it or, however that particular relationship ended, you were right to end it and move on. I think this dream was confirmation of that. And okay, so we've got some love for that class. So we'll put that on the calendar for March. Very good. Okay. Maria Pia, did I pronounce your name correctly? In my dream, my mother talked to me and mentioned grandmother's name. I've not talked to my mom in years. By her decision, my grandmother passed away in 2004. So what is the meaning of that? The meaning of that is to help you understand that, your mother has her own issues. And those issues may have come to her from your grandmother. And so this is sort of understanding the generational and ancestral trauma of your family. And it is helping you learn to have good self-esteem, even though the generations of women in your family may have had difficulty, for you to have self-esteem in yourself and to feel comfortable in yourself, not to carry on whatever their dysfunction is, not to carry that on. That's what I would see there. All right. So I want to thank you all for participating in this conversation. If you have not read the newsletter and if you do not subscribe to the newsletter, please do. Go to my website, tarotbychristiana.com. Hit the link for newsletter. You can read the newsletter. And you can subscribe so it comes into your inbox every Wednesday. Okay. And Robin Renee has written something to Missy, so go ahead and check that out. T, nice to see you. Had a dream that I was snooping through a mansion and there were people sleeping in their bedrooms with their door open and lights on. I was confused as to what the house owner was saying. She couldn't pay the mortgage with all of her renters. Why the house owner was saying she couldn't pay the mortgage with all of her renters. So I already have an idea of what that's about, T, but let me pull some cards and see. Yeah, the whole bunch of cards that I pulled confirm this. This is about your own psychic ability. This is about being the astrologer and tarot reader that you are, where you can see into people's lives in a way that maybe other people can't or don't. And you're just sort of learning how to deal with this. And then, when you do see into people's lives, you see that a lot of people have problems that aren't easy to understand. And so I think this is just about you coming into yourself as a reader. That's what I think. Okay, Teresa, I would love a card for the meaning of life. Okay, and so specifically, have you all seen that Monty Python movie? I know I date myself when I talk about Monty Python, but you gotta love it. The Monty Python movie, the meaning of life? I love that movie. That's one of my favorite movies. And of course, at the end, they reveal the meaning of life. It's like, be good to each other. Yeah. But let's look at you specifically, the meaning of your life right now, how you find meaning in your life at this time, Teresa. The Knight of Pentacles. Right now, your life can feel very much about just put one foot in front of the other and do the work you have to do so you can live another day. it may be hard for you right now to find the meaning. And I think what you need to do, with this being the Knight of Pentacles, I think you can find meaning in your own life through your love of nature. Maybe it's about animals. Maybe it's about going outside and being outside. Maybe it's about the changing seasons. But finding meaning in the eternal nature of nature, the eternal nature of nature, and how nature is always replenished. And I think in that you can find meaning. Okay, Pamela, was the man walking outside my window early this morning asking for a screwdriver, walking heavy on dry leaves, real in current time or another dimension? Most definitely another dimension. And what is the meaning of you seeing that? Recognizing that you yourself have the tools you need. He was looking for a tool. You have the tools you need to create the life you want. Okay, Leanne, you have asked for a spiritual reading. What we're doing here is about meaning, finding meaning. And so for you, I will just ask the question of what you need to do to find meaning within your life. And for you, there's a lot of looking to the past. There's a lot about getting closure from the past, but also finding meaning in looking at how far you have come and how much you have grown, and both the treasured memories that you value and also healing from the things that are difficult there. All right, that's my time. I want to thank all of you so much for being here. And again, you can just go to my website, tarotbychristiana.com, where you can get the newsletter, where you can get a ticket for tonight's class, and where you can book an appointment with me. Do all of those things on my website, tarotbychristiana.com. Thank you all so much for being here. Have a great day. I'll be back tomorrow with your Friday weekly wrap-up.